Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace dropping in on you. I'm not going to be too long. I just wanted to officially, even though I've already announced it, I want to officially let you know that book number 19, Born in Captivity, Psychopathology as a Legacy of Slavery, as far as dealing with Black issues, my most comprehensive book to this point. As you can see, let me see how this camera's, all right. You can see that it's not, a slight as far as what I tried to do in comprehensive. So this is the official print book cover, which is different than the digital or ebook book cover, which you can see on the inside of the print cover. But I did that on purpose. And this is the second stage of a multiple release, multiple format publishing process in which we've got the ebook out in July. We made this book first available in a limited way in September, and now we'll be shipping for all of those who pre-ordered the book in totality. Some people pre-ordered the bundle where you got the digital, the print, and the upcoming documentary, all for one reduced price. So this version of the book will be coming out to you. There's no additional shipping charges or anything like that. It's going to come out based off of the agreement on the initial promotion. For those of you who haven't ordered the book, this is a good time to come in, order the print version by itself, or you can also order the bundle, get the ebook as well as the print version, and pre-order the full-length documentary, which will deal with all the issues that you're able to read about in this book. If you follow me for any length of time, you're aware of the fact that while I do my best to highlight the issues, to find the sources and the origins of the issues, to come up with and identify the problems that are at the core of the symptoms that we often see on the surface, it is my ultimate goal in my research to find the solution. If you find the problem, you find the solution. So I use an approach called reverse engineering, in which I go in and I start at the symptom or the problem as it presents itself on the surface, and then I work my way back to the origin to see the construct and how it's put together and what brought it to that point. And then we deal with rebuilding, we deal with starting over, we deal with addressing all of the issues that create the pathologies. And one thing that I can tell you is one of the biggest issues that I found in the last 30 plus years, over 60-something thousand hours in research. One of the things I found is that there are these multitudinous pathologies, everything from incest to disunity, distrust, self-hatred, inferiority complexes, lack of self-identity, and I can just go on down on all these things that add up to these behaviors that we perpetuated for so long, for so many generations, that we literally view these behaviors as being a part of our culture. This is just who we are. This is just why, this is just what we do. No, it is a result of consistently living life outside of the means of your natural design, based on environmental impacts like trauma, starting with chattel slavery, moving into construction, moving into black codes, moving into Jim Crow, moving into redlining, moving into benign neglect, urban renewal, gentrification, mass incarceration. All of these are intrusions into a natural process that are burdened with negative influences, negative impact, negative energy, hostility, aggression, creating fear and all kinds of things, hypervigilance, fear for a shortened future, hypermasculinity, hyperviolence, and on down the line. All of these pathologies have a source. Well, when we understand the source, we start working towards addressing the issues. We've got to deal with the need to heal. We've got to deal with the need to reconstruct our identity, to reclaim our history, to reclaim our faith, to reclaim our values, our interests, our principles from an Afrocentric perspective, so that we're not viewing ourselves through the lens of Eurocentricity, because we tend to view ourselves through a Eurocentric mindset. We tend to see ourselves as substandard, subhumans. We tend to take the images presented to us by the Eurocentric idea, which places us in a subservient, somewhat lower standard, lower level, lower existence, and we embody it even when we're not thinking about it. I just shared something earlier where there's this image that Dove is now trying to backtrack on, in which they put the black woman first, the brown woman second, and the white woman last, and they go before and after, and it gives the imagery. Why it doesn't say it, it gives the imagery that, okay, this is starting off with what you don't want, and this is ending up where you want to end, and it's ending up with the white woman, again redefining beauty from a Eurocentric perspective and sending an inferiority complex to the black woman, the black female, on where she stands. There's also a bottle that someone shared on their post that I saw, that basically was where it says on a Dove bottle, it says from normal to dark skin. So in other words, dark skin is a normal from a Eurocentric idea. But when all you've ever been faced with is a Eurocentric idea, you tend to judge yourself from a Eurocentric perspective. And there's this process that is used in propaganda in all types of different ways. It's been used since this whole thing began hundreds of years ago, and it's called subconscious archetypal programming, and it's basically understood. And you can go back thousands of years and see that the ancient Kemetic culture understood it, because you got hieroglyphics from the idea of imagery, which means that the brain actually stores everything in imagery. It creates memories from imagery. It reads words and converts words into imagery. The way that you remember is through imagery. The way that you categorize, you interpret through imagery. So the most powerful teaching mechanism is imagery. The more I'm able to present imagery to you, the more I'm able to get you to a particular time, and then you begin to associate certain meanings with certain symbols, certain imagery. So when you see something, you automatically associate a certain interpretation with it. That's where hieroglyphics came from, but it also is exactly how our brain works. So the more I can present images in front, I don't have to even put the words with it. When I line up a before and after picture, and it's obvious that the after is where you want to be, and the dark-skinned woman is at the before, and the light-skinned woman is at the after, it sends the message, even if you don't pick it up. That's the power of imagery. It's called subliminal imagery, or archetypal programming. It means that you see it, you don't get it consciously, but your subconscious reads it. And your subconscious will begin to search in its memory banks to associate the image with more memories or more ideas that line up with it. So over time, you're constantly building an idea that follows the imagery. You've been constantly bombarded with imagery that paints you as subhuman, imagery that paints you as barbaric, imagery that paints you as lazy, imagery that paints you as poor, imagery that paints you as in need of support by someone else. All of this imagery over time, even when you're saying you don't believe it, but you're allowing it to hit your subconscious. Your subconscious is immediately at a speed in microseconds, processing it, categorizing it, and lining it up with other informations that has implicated and gotten back into your subconscious, and it's lining up. And that's what's happening with this. So when I started to my journey started 1985. You know, I've always took pride in being black. You know, I had to go find Malcolm X because he wasn't even in the school. I heard about him, but he wasn't being taught in the school. They were shoving Martin Luther King down my throat. And there were certain things I like about Dr. King. I still love about Dr. King, but I want to hear about Malcolm, because Malcolm was something that was being hid. And normally when something's being hid, you want to find it. I didn't know why I wanted to find it, but I wanted to find it. And I stumbled on, in 1985, a Phil Donahue show with Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. And it started a journey that I'm still on. I'm still learning. Every time I think I've gotten close to something, I find out there's a vast ocean. And this is what I want to share with you. There are some very powerful people out there that are doing some extraordinary things, some exceptional things. And one of the things that I found that I actually consider to be a pathology in the Black collective is hero worship. I've been guilty of it. I know a lot of people who are guilty of it. And this is what I mean by hero and ancestor worship. I believe that we honor our ancestors. I believe that we honor those who came before us, the Garveys, the Evers, the Malcolm X's, and so many others, the John Heinrich Clarks, the Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinans, the Neely Fuller Juniors, the France Cresses, Welsings, and I can go on and on and on and on. Dr. Claude Anderson, still with us. All of these people, we need to honor them. They laid the foundation, but it was Dr. Clark, Dr. John Heinrich Clark. Unbelievable, just a beast. But it was him that said, we'll simply lay the foundation for the next generation to come along and build on. We spend far too much time hero worshiping instead of becoming the next. And every last one of us has the capacity to do so. Nobody's greater than anybody else. What happens is we get so focused on one cat out there, and then we get caught up in them, and then we build these cliques that's associated with, well, if you with that dude and I'm with this dude, I ain't feeling. And we find every reason to argue with one another, to block one another. It's people blocking one another by this whole Cam Newton thing. We get so lost instead of becoming. That's the thing. The thing is, you don't have to like somebody to respect them. You don't have to like somebody to honor them in the sense of respect. In other words, I don't have to agree with it. I'm not going to agree with everything that anybody does. I'm my own person. I'm viewing life through a unique experience that is my life, that nobody else is living. So I'm not going to agree with everything. But I should be able to look at you and say, okay, this brother is fighting for something. He's got something. He's doing something. I don't have to agree with everything. I don't have to agree with the way you're going. I just have to know that you're fighting on the same battlefield with me and you're trying to get to the same destination. At some point, we're going to find ourselves sinking with one another because we're going to find ourselves being pushed through quantum mechanics and quantum physics and spirituality and emotion and the ability to connect with all of the things that define us holistically, not simply in what we've been given academically, not simply in what we've been given through false history, but what we are beginning to discover about ourselves because we are beginning to step outside of the boundaries of what someone has defined as our place. We're going to begin to find ourselves living within the totality of our design, understanding that there is a divine power inside of us to do things, to create new realities, to create new ideas, to be innovative in thought. Everybody's looking at, they won't let us. That's because you're trying to go through their design to get where you want to go. Why not create your own way? Why not create your own idea? Why not come up with an idea that does not exist to overcome what's sitting in front of you? That's what we have the capacity to do. But we must shake free of that pathological nature that we have of doing things that harm one another and harm ourselves. That's what this entire book about. Like I said, as you can see, it has a little thickness to it. The book is Born in Captivity, Psychopathology as a Legacy of Slavery. And what I do is what my intent is to do every time that I attack a problem. It's not simply to identify the problem so I can talk about it and share information on it. We got way too much information sharing, not enough activity going on. Everybody wants to show how much they know, but nobody's doing anything to put it into action. When someone has put the time, energy, and effort into coming up with something and showing it to you, they've been gifted with the gift of teaching and sharing. And what your job is to take what they're teaching you and then see how it applies to the life around you and how it empowers you personally to impact the world in your periphery, impact the things that you were not designed for mediocrity. You were not designed to live life average. You were not designed just to simply run around the world and be moved to and fro and about as a pawn on a chessboard. When you really truly look at things, you're not even supposed to be a piece on the chessboard. That's what a lot of people, if I could just be the queen, I don't want to be the queen, I don't want to be the king, I don't want to be the bishop, I don't want to be the rook. What I want to do is I want to get to a place where I'm the person moving the pieces. When you are the person moving the pieces in your life, now you are at a point where you can touch people, you can impact people. I just consistently wake up every morning and I look at the priorities that I have written that are my life priorities, and they're written on one of my vision boards, and it tells me the direction I'm supposed to be focused on, because it's easy to get lost in this ocean of ideas and oceans of people trying to define you and tell you who you are and what you are, lost in trying to make up for past mistakes. I tell people all the time, stop mortgaging your future to pay for your past. Stop it. Stop. You made some mistakes. I made some. I probably will make a mistake tomorrow. Hopefully it's not a big one. Hopefully it's not something that's going to take me a while to get over, but I'm going to make mistakes. I'm not perfect. There are a lot of things I wake up every morning working on. I'm good with that as long as I see progress. As long as I'm not the man I was last month, last year, 5 years ago, as long as I see progress, that's where I'm going. I'm going to die needing to improve. If I live to be 100, I'm going to die needing to grow. That's where we're going to get it from. We've got to come in contact with ourselves. We've got to escape the Eurocentric idea. Because see, what has happened over time is there's this malignant narcissism that erupts from the white presence or the white existence that says that the Eurocentric idea is universal. What do I mean by that? Everything is judged through the lens of Eurocentricity. Everything that we look at, our definition or interpretation of what's classy, what's professional, what's clean cut, what's attractive, what's smart, what's intelligent, what's spiritual, what's faith. All of that's defined through a Eurocentric idea, a Eurocentric idea that they have worked centuries to create as a universal way of thought, a universal worldview. But the truth of the nature is we need to stop looking at ourselves objectively and start looking at the world through a lens of Afrocentricity, an Afrocentric idea that looks at things from a subjective perspective where we see Africa as the central of all ideas. That's where we'll discover ourselves. That's where we'll begin to see power. That's where we'll begin to discover who we truly are, where we truly come from. And we'll discover that we don't have to bask only in the idea of Kemet. There are so many other civilizations that erupted from that continent that bear fruit and bear witness and evidence of who we are and where we come from. And we need to study and understand that and gain a sense of pride in blackness. And so when you start to gain a sense of pride in blackness is when you begin to understand that you're not who you were told you were. There's something about you that's powerful, that's unshakable, unbreakable. Once you peel off the layers of Eurocentricity, the Eurocentric idea, the Eurocentric definition, that thing that you've been looking at and defining. It's so many of us correct our brothers and sisters because we are not behaving white enough. I love all of my black brothers and sisters, from those who have a masterful control and domination of the English language, to those who speak it broken, to those who speak Ebonics, to those who sit up and do what we call things that we call ghetto. I love you all because all of you have a story. And behind that story is the answer to your personal enigma. And then when we look behind the story that is the veil of white history, false history, and we look to the truth that's being presented by some brothers. That history thing is not really my thing. I have to know history in order to give context to my study of behavioral science. But there's some brothers out there that can break this history thing down to you. Some brothers out there can do the history and the psych thing. And there's some people out there that are doing it. And it's not Dr. Clark, it's not Yosef Ben Yakinen, it's Dr. Oh man, and I absolutely love me some Amos Wilson, but it's not Amos Wilson. You got some people right now today that are beasts at what they do. And the thing is, they don't have to be right 100% of the time. It's not their job to be right. It's their job to bring you everything that they know in their truth as they found it. And it's your job to verify it. It's your job to research. It's your job to read. It's your job to sit up and say, well, Dr. Wallace, I read it and I got some questions. And then you go find the answers and you come sit down and we have a talk about it. And I might sit up and say, you know what? I didn't see it that way. I'm glad you came to. I got a young brother that I'm working with now. Dwayne, oh my God, this young kid, Dwayne Wong. He's in his 20s. He's authored a number of different books, and he was brought to me because the person that brought him to me thought that I would be a good fit for a mentor. And this kid is off the chain. I look at him and I say, we got a future. I look at him and I say, we got a future. What the older heads are passing down, there's some younger heads that's coming straight beast mode. And they're coming and they haven't been infiltrated and contaminated with the lie. Matter of fact, they won't even receive the lie. There's some purity coming, but it's our job to know the truth so that we can give the truth to these babies. And so then after we give the truth to these babies, the next step is to insulate them, cover them, protect them, and keep that lie from coming in until the truth is inculcated into their psyche, until they've been imprinted with the power of blackness, imprinted with the belief that they can do anything, imprinted with the confidence that they can go out into a world that's hostile towards them and change things to benefit them. They need that. And when they do that, we've done what we should do as a generation. We've given them a higher platform on which to climb. We've given them better resources. We've got work to do. And that's what this is for me. It's about presenting you with a new idea. It's not about saying I know it all. It's not about saying everything I put in this book is absolute truth. It's about saying that I put in the time and the effort and the energy over the last however many years to just grow and get better and to meet new people and to talk to new people and to take new ideas. The one thing that I have not had and what has allowed me to get to where I am is I don't have a closed mind. I never get to a point to where I think this is right and ain't nobody can tell me nothing. I'm constantly entertaining new ideas. This is what I want you to understand. This thing called subconscious archetypal programming. Use it in a number of different ways through propaganda mediums. It's everywhere you look. There's a suggestion of white superiority and either a subtle or a direct suggestion of black inferiority. It's done in some of the subtle ways. It's done sometimes outright and direct. And while we want to pretend that it doesn't bother, everything to us is just entertainment. I'm going to present this to you and I'm going to tell you not from a place of emotion, not from a place of empty thought, but from a place of actually going and researching from a non-biased perspective. What does that mean? Whenever I start my research, there's always the danger of producing biased data or biased results from my research. Because I'm human, I am going to likely look to prove that what I believe is right is right. That's why you never prove an argument by what you go find on the internet. First of all, everything you find on the internet doesn't mean it's true. Most of the stuff is bull crap. But what happens is anything I want to find, if I believe it's true and I want to find it, I can find something to support it. Number two, the more fixed on the belief I become, my brain will begin to filter out things that don't line up with it. So I'll miss stuff that is actually there to prove contrary to what I believe, because my brain now is set. It's a servo mechanism. It's designed to filter out anything I don't find important. And when I say I believe this, I'm saying that this is important. So now my brain is trying to prove me right. So I got to be careful when I'm researching. So what I normally do when I start my research is I come up with a hypothesis. I'm trying to get from there and graduate up through to at least the theory. And then I can at least leave the theory, which is a highly developed concept or construct, for somebody to prove. If I'm really lucky, I get the theorem, which means I've actually proved my hypothesis to be true. But check this out. What I normally do is I come up with the hypothesis, then I try to prove the hypothesis wrong. Why? I'm going to automatically, because I believe that this is true, find evidence that proves it. But if I start out trying to prove it wrong, I'm going to automatically be forced to look at evidence to the contrary. Then I use certain processes to break down and determine what I can depend on and trust the most, and I come up with an answer. That's how we've got to get to this. We're not going to get to this through emotion. Oh, I don't like this. I don't do this. I feel like this. I don't care how you feel. What can you prove? Because see, what I can prove to you is that this system, subconscious, archetypal programming, has been used for centuries as a teaching mechanism, but more importantly, over the last 400, 500, 600 years, as a conditioning, a mind control mechanism, in which I will sit up and I will give you imagery to the point that I create a belief in your mind. Once I create that belief in your mind, that belief will govern your behavior. Your behavior is governed by your beliefs. How you believe or what you believe about money is going to govern how you use it, how you spend it, what you do with it. What you believe about relationships is going to govern how you deal and how you build with relationships. On and down the line, I can control. It was Carter G. Woodson that says, when you can control what a man thinks about himself, you don't have to sit up and tell him what to do. Once I can sit up and tell you you're inferior, I don't have to tell you to go to the back door. That's what Carter G. Woodson said. I don't have to tell you to go to the back door. You will go there on your own accord, and if it's not a door back there, you will demand that one be built, or you'll build it yourself, because that's where you're supposed to be. And then this is what I can tell you, and then I'm going to shut it down. I wasn't even intending on going in this deep. I was just going to tell you that the book is here, but I just got going. Subconscious archetypal programming is so powerful that when it's conditioned in the mind deep enough for long enough, in other words, it's even more powerful when you take a group of people and you uplift them and extract them from their normal environment. We're talking about the original chattel slaves of America. You uproot them, you take them out of their home, you ship them overseas, you remove their history, you kill the griots that tell the history to stop the history. You forbid them to use their own language. So you take away their history and their language. Also, you take away their religion. And then you take away their values, their interests, and their principles, which is their psychological factor. It is what guides them. It's what makes them them. It's what they identify with. It's what controls their behavior. So you take their history, their language, their religion, their values, their interests, and their principles, you totally take it away from them. And then you superimpose, or you impress upon them your language, your history, your values, your interests, your principles, your idea or your vision or your image of God. And then once you impress it upon them enough until they receive it, when they receive it as reality, from that point on, you are the oppressor because you oppress them. But from that point on, no matter what happens, no matter what they run into, no matter how frustrated they get, no matter whatever happens, everything they do will be in the interest of the oppressor, every action they take, because at the subconscious and the deepest level of their existence, they're going to do what's best for the oppressor. Because in their mind, the oppressor is superior, has a superior position, especially when the image of God is in the likeness of the oppressor. You have to understand that everything, even the things we consider good for us, has been used against us. And until we dissect it, break it down, and come to an understanding, if you can't define its history, then you've got to question it. If you can't track it and explain the history yourself of any belief you're holding, you've got to go back and you've got to deal with that. Because it's through these tiny little movements and mechanisms. And then they reinforce it over and over again with imagery. And that dove thing is just the latest thing that got caught. See, how many gets through the cracks without getting caught? Now, here's the thing is, social media is a mechanism. The internet is a mechanism. Are we using it to our best benefit? In some ways we are, in some ways we're not. That the social media is what's allowing us to see, because I can guarantee you over time there have been a number of people who have caught this. Tom Burrell, the writer of the book Brainwashed, he talks about this. I mean, he's a beast in the world of advertising. He created his own black-owned beast. Matter of fact, he's retired now. He is the CEO emeritus of the company, but Hillary Clinton actually hired this company to represent her in her campaign. That's how big the company got. The fact that they went and actually worked with her, that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, what I'm getting at is Tom Burrell talks in great detail in his book Brainwashed and outside of his book Brainwashed, because he did a tour where he talked about it, I mean, incessantly. He went into great detail about the power of image. And the thing is, we've always seen it. There's always been somebody going, man, hold on, wait a minute. But the difference was, it got no further than the ears that were there to hear it. It got no further than anybody who read their particular op-ed or their particular editorial. Now it gets posted, and if it catches on fire, it's across the internet, and thousands upon thousands are seeing it now. And now there's this awakening. See, there's this awakening that's happening. And I believe that when I study history, the one thing that I rest my hat on, the reason I can wake up every morning and fight and meet the frustration of seemingly no progression, is that when I look at history, no empire has stood the test of time. Whether you talk about Babylon, the Chaldean Empire, the Persian Empire, the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, and on down the line, French, English, everybody has come to a point where they had to bow down. And the people on the bottom were rising. And that is what I believe. I believe that the purity of our yearnings, I believe the desire to be, I believe the nature of who we are and where we come from. I believe that everything comes full circle. I believe that we are the origin of civilization. And I believe that at some point we return to that point of power. That point. And the thing is, we can expedite that by starting to turn inward and look at ourselves and start to sit up and say, I can become and I can be. That I'm going to be the best me I can be. But you got to know what that is. You got to look beyond what you've been defined as. You got to look beyond the idea of an IQ presented through a Eurocentric academic idea. You got to be able to understand that your uniqueness, your intelligence may not show up on an IQ test, but it may be off the charts. You got to understand that those things were created to present a certain image and to create and hold a certain ideology. Because you shine in academia don't mean that you're better than anyone. It doesn't mean that you have something someone else doesn't have. You just went after something and you got it. But when you look at what people are able to do, like I tell people all the time, I've had the blessings of working with people almost in every area. I've worked with people with Down syndrome. I've worked with people with autism. I've worked with people who were declared negligibly mentally retarded. I've worked with people with trauma, people who come from incestuous childhood sexual abuse. I work with, and the one thing I can tell you, I have not in my entire life with everybody I've encountered, casually, professionally, and in every other way, I have never come across one person who didn't have a gift. I start looking for it the moment I encounter somebody. I'm looking for their gift, because far too often our parents, Our teachers have not searched for our gifting. They haven't searched for what makes us unique and special. They spend a lot of time in this academic system, this public education system, trying to make everybody fit into that one square box of standardized academia, instead of looking at the individual and finding out. But see, a lot of that is on us, because it's our responsibility to look into the eyes of our children, to look at their behaviors, to look at that and find out, even with our own kids, each one of them is different. Each one of them has a different gifting, a different level of intellect, and a different way of expressing that intellect. It's our job to tap into that. It's our job to nurture that. It's our job to build into that. It's our job to send them out into a world that's going to try to tear it down and have it so strong and built that it can't be broken. That's our job. That's where we failed, and we were failed, is that we've constantly sending our kids out and telling them that this education thing is the best thing going. Now, I'm a person that found a way to work it, and it works to my benefit, but I by no stretch of the imagination think that that's what makes me who I am, because a lot of what I knew before that, and most of what I know now I got after that, and the system didn't give it to me. I took some of the structures and I used that to set up the foundation that I would use to go out. But most of what I I went and got on my own. And that means if I can do it, and some of these beast autodidacts that are out there now that may not have the academic credentials but still bear, as far as I'm concerned, the level of a doctorate and the knowledge that they present and in the effort that they put in order to get what they get, to give what they give. Here's the thing. If you invest in yourself the same way, if you invest in knowing more than your feelings should actually be an expression of what you know, not just simply something you're acting off solely off an external stimuli. That's one of the problems we got. We know how to tap into emotions and go. That's why we have so many black people, and this is going to tick some people off, but we got so many black people churched, and yet we have so many black people powerless, because we only know how to tap into our emotions. We go to a church, we get emotionally charged by a sermon that's designed to tap into our emotions. We leave church feeling like we can tear down every evil force moving against us. We feel like we can go on the battlefield, but the truth of the matter is we haven't been given anything to fight with. We haven't given anything of substance. We've been made to feel good and feel powerful about the feel good. What happens? I get out Monday and I run into a boss that's doing everything in their power to make sure I don't climb the ladder, because they're going to give those positions to white people. But I've been taught, don't get too caught up in color, because it's not about color. And then so I sit back and say, well, it's not about color. It's got to be me. It can't be, because if it's not about color, what else could it be? If it's not about color, then they got to be giving it to somebody that's better than me. Maybe I'm just not good enough. So now you're beating yourself up. Then you get home, you got to deal with all the things that your family had to go out and deal with. Not everybody's at home, beat down by a world that's not built for them. And then you go, so by Tuesday, what you're doing? You're yearning. You got to have that fix of emotion. So now all you can see is Sunday. Now you're just surviving the rest of the week so you can get to Sunday, so you can get that. If you're not being equipped to go out and change the world that you live in so that it works for you, you're not being educated, you're not being empowered, you're not being given anything. You're being played. If you can look over your life, look more than 20 years, and you have not seen progress, not grown, not blew something completely up and seen something so powerful that it shook your very core, you need to reevaluate. You're going to have some ups and downs in life. You're going to have some things you go through. But if what you're going through is perpetual, it's time to rethink it, because that's not why you're designed and to be here. That's not why you're here. You're here to be a point of impact. And if all your life is being impacted, you need to check that, because that's not the function. The function is to impact. The function is to be a force. The function is to leave a legacy that says I was here, a legacy so powerful that it speaks well of you long after you're gone. If you're not building a legacy, if all that your children will be able to say after you left is they made it, It's sad. But that's what we've been trained to believe, is that we just gotta wait. Just wait. Something gonna happen. The truth of the matter, God created you to be a representation of him. And he's in everything. Everything you touch, the energy you feel, everything around you, every idea, that's God. Every idea, that's God. Every energy you feel, is God. All of that's there. But if you're created in the image, then you have the power to create. Life isn't happening to you. It's responding to you. It's waiting on you to change your attitude. It's waiting on you to change your mindset. It's waiting on you to get rid of those limiting beliefs while study claiming every day you got faith, but never walking in it, never acting in it, never moving in it, never standing in it, never moving anything. Walk out from under that lie, that Eurocentric lie that you have no power. You are an actual expression of God in physical form, but underneath the physicality is the true nature of your existence. That's what it means to call things that are not as though they were. See, we don't want to talk about true power. We just want to feel good. Yeah. Y'all wasn't expecting that when y'all tuned in. But see, you got to move past the talk. You got to move past that. You got to have something about yourself, something that makes you live. See, we got way too many of us just surviving, very few living. There's a difference in living and surviving. Living says I'm experiencing life on my terms. Surviving is I'm just getting to the next day. I take what I get and I just keep it moving. You haven't truly discovered who you are yet. I absolutely love all of you. I mean, I love you more than you can ever imagine. You would have to really sit down and get to know me to understand how much of me I put into loving you. You know, sometimes the little lady give me the side eye. You come out of that office, dude. You know, no, you're always going over there doing this. You're always over there. Come here. But the truth of the nation, the truth of the nature is she knows who she marries and she's got my back. But she'll tell you, I'm really, you know, when I get off of this video, it's back to the grind. I am never up just bull crapping. I may take some time to spend with my babies and spend with my woman, but there's never this casual mindset with me. I'm never at a point where, oh, life's just great. I'm just skipping through life. I know the truth about what's at stake now. I know the urgency about what's at stake now. My thing is, what are we going to do? Are we going to sit around hoping and wishing and, you know, kicking buckets? Are we going to rise up and live in the true nature of our existence and our design? I'm going to leave that answer up to you. But again, the reason I actually got on here, man, check it out. Book, like I said, book number 19, Born in Captivity, Psychopathology as a Legacy of Slavery. There is a full-length documentary coming in the first part of next year. You can actually pre-order that to get it at a discounted price. I'm excited about that as well. It's just one of the many ways that I'm working to try to take what I'm using actually in the business world and use it to help my people as well. With that being said, I'm gonna check out of here. You guys are awesome. Time to live in that awesomeness. It's time to live in that awesomeness. I'm gonna leave you with that. Have an awesome day. Enjoy whatever it is you're enjoying. Stay tuned for some of the other things that are going on. I'm constantly moving about and doing things, but stay tuned. But we've got to learn to work together. I love you guys. I'm out of here. I'm going to down eat. I challenge you to do the same thing. Peace.